It was an exciting offseason for us, and we've had a couple of goals and aims that we were hoping to try to accomplish. And, we kind of feel like mission accomplished from the standpoint that, most teams that have the asset war chest that we have right now tend to be usually teams that are usually really poor from the standpoint of either maybe in American sports leagues, teams that draft very high, have a lot of picks, usually hadn't done well the year prior. Teams with allocation money tend to be teams usually like expansion teams. So one of our goals was to be in a situation where we can kind of weaponize our roster and have the assets to do the things we want to do, while also have a roster that we believe is as competitive as any third-year club in MLS in recent history. So, we're encouraged about where we are right now. And we think, today's edition of the SuperDraft helped us move forward in that process as well.
Thank you, Mike. We'll start with Drake Hills, then we'll go to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, first and foremost, Mike, I dig the change from white to yellow on the shirt there. Goes well with the draft festivities, but Happy New Year to you. I wanted to ask you just about exactly Longmire, what you saw in him. This was a center back heavy draft, as particularly at least in the first round. What did you see from him? And I know that he has a relationship with Walker Zimmerman. What did you see from him in terms of what you liked?
Drake, first off, if I'm getting fashion advice from you, I'm in trouble, man.
That's cold-blooded. That's cold-blooded.
I'll tell you what, if it was Tom Bogert, I would say maybe okay. But I mean, until you up your game, okay? Look, for us, I think went to bed last night thinking about what would we have to do to move up to get the guy that we identified as our top choice, which was Longmire. When you look at the other players that we identified, our feeling was the guys we wanted, and specifically our top choice, not be around at 26. So for us, our hope was trying to identify other teams that maybe would offer us the opportunity to move up. Maybe looking at the fact that we were doubling down on our ability to identify talent and maybe try to grab someone in a spot, or maybe, as we've done most of our last 2 years, try to identify potentially undervalued players externally that we valued highly, and maybe try to acquire them without giving up as much as possible. So, someone like Longmire for us, had a chance to watch him extensively. Our staff, and I would say, when you look at the job that Chance Myers, our director of player personnel, a group of guys work closely with him, Luke Sassano, Ike Capara. I think very quickly for us, we kind of felt like the best center back on the board that we were looking at was him. And, for us, whether we played with 3 center backs or 2 center backs, knowing in a World Cup year that Walker will be away quite a bit, for us to be able to strengthen our depth with not only a person that was the best player on the board, but we thought fit our group the best. That was really important. You've heard me talk a lot over the last couple of years about cohesion and fit. And for us, it wasn't just who was the best player on the board as far as the best center back, but for us, it was who we thought fit our group the best. And within a combination of tools that he has, his athletic ability, his ability to close players down, ability in the air, speed and a turn, so he fit really, really well with the guys we have.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go next to Tim Sullivan and then Wright. Go ahead, Tim.
And Mike, you mentioned trying to figure out what you needed to do to get up from number 26 to be able to draft Ahmed. When did this deal come together, and how did you get the deal put together to move up to number 10? And, were you considering that you might have to go even higher when you woke up this morning to potentially not miss out on him?
Tim, truth be told, the last 48, 72 hours, you start trying to kind of feel out their contemporaries and try to get an idea of who's potentially looking to move their pick, who's going to use their pick. I would say that we did start with teams slightly higher than Colorado. From our standpoint, I would tell you, we were committed to kind of do what we had to acquire him. The lower you go, the more you start to kind of hold your breath and hope that your guy's still going to be on the board. We got to a point, we got to 10, we just didn't think he'd be around that much longer. And then you start looking at the potential return, how much you're willing to spend to get your guy. And I think for us, working with Colorado, being able to exchange our pick, I think they wanted to stay in a draft, potentially trade down. We just thought we weren't going to get the player we wanted at our spot. So, for us, the opportunity to go to 10, we jumped at it.
Go ahead, Ben, and we'll go to Tom Bogert.
Mike, you touched on this a little bit, but what do you specifically see from Longmire that you like? And where do you think he kind of fits in with the rotation of guys that you have? Obviously Jack, Walker, and Dave, but then Robert and Josh, where does he fit in with those guys?
It's a great question. What I would tell you is, each of those guys you mentioned are all a little different. And, we mentioned about cohesion. I think initially when we first talked about the idea of pairing David and Walker together, that they both had unique athletic attributes. Dave's speed and turn is outstanding. I could probably count on one hand in the last 2 seasons, guys who got behind and doesn't happen very often. And look, Walker, I think it's safe to say he's the best player in the league in the air, defensively and offensively. So when you look at those two present, and when we first looked at Jack Mayer, we used to look at Jack before we had Walker, and the guy I have to tell you that we compared him to when he was 19, 20 years old was Walker at that stage. We saw some similar attributes to them. Literally, their height and weight very similar. The things that they do well. What I can tell you, I mentioned a lot to Jack. Jack played more games and more minutes in his second year than Walker had in his second year. In Dallas, in a very good Dallas team, you had a 3-man rotation at center back between George John, Matt Hedges, and Walker Zimmerman. And eventually Walker went from being the young GA as a 19, 20-year-old rotating in, becoming a linchpin there. We kind of see Jack having a ascension in our group. For us, I would say, Ahmed's he's different than those guys, but I'd say he's probably most comparable athletically probably to Romney from the standpoint of his pace and a turn. I think our thought, we looked like who we would kind of put together. We kind of thought that maybe having another guy with the pace he had and his ability to win balls in the air, we would be a good fit with that group. I think he's a good player passing. It certainly can improve on, breaking lines and connecting passes. Jack Mayer was one of the top center backs in the league as far as completion percentage in passing and also in forward passing last year. So I kind of think that whoever we play Ahmed with, whether it's one of the 3 incumbents who played a lot last year, whether it's someone like Robert Castellanos, who we think a lot of also, we kind of think that this move helps us give us the right kind of depth, whether we're playing with 2 center backs or 3 center backs.
Go ahead, Tom, and we'll go to Tim.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike, for taking the time. Couple questions here to shift away from the draft a little bit. I believe this is the first time that you're speaking publicly outside of the press release since the Sean Davis news. I guess, just how much does Sean add to this team? And a second question, what is left on the agenda for this team by way of roster building for the season ahead of either opening day or preseason starting?
Well, first off, Drake, I want to apologize to you. I thought Tommy was wearing one of his Hawaiian shirts. So after seeing that, I want to apologize for rating him higher as far as fashion tips.
Yeah, that was a bad take off the jump, but I was muted, so I didn't want to unmute myself.
Look, Sean is someone obviously who's really well thought of around the league. When you think what he offers on both sides of the ball and on and off the field, I think he clearly is somebody who displays, we talk about an awful lot here, in like NSC DNA. I think he has that in spades. So for us to add someone who I think can be a linchpin in our group, not only in our midfield to pair him with the likes of guys like Anibal and Dax and Anunga, but to continue to kind of build in this spine that, defensively has had the best goals against average and most shutouts over the first 2 seasons. What I would say about Sean is maybe similar to guys like Anibal or Dax. I think sometimes in our sport, we get too caught up looking at traditional numbers, players, whether they're 10 or an 8 or a 6. And, I think one thing we talk about a lot is universality. Having guys who are midfielders opposed to an attacking midfielder or a defensive midfielder or a box to box midfielder. And I would tell you, I think Sean fits in really, really well. If I was going to look at the guys we have right now, when you look at maybe someone who has similar attributes to Dax on the field, but with Anibal's athletic attributes, that's frightening. So to offer somebody like that and to pair him with these other guys you're talking about, it's really exciting to think about what someone like Sean possesses and what he can add to this already like really established midfield and group in general. As far as the rest of the offseason, look, I mentioned about the opportunity to acquire allocation money. We've talked in the past about, where we just finished the SuperDraft. Unlike sports like basketball or football in our country, where collecting draft picks tends to be the biggest asset. In our league, it's all about allocation money. So when you look at our plan about trying to run it back from the standpoint of, this last summer we talked about a successful window and trying to tie up our guys long term. To now have this kind of allocation money without losing one of the key guys in our core, and that is not to take anything away from Alistair, because I think a lot about him personally, and I certainly wish him well in his endeavors. For us to be able to add that kind of allocation money to increase our war chest with the group of players we already have, I think sets up a really encouraging spot for our third season. So, we're excited about that. And at this stage, I think for Gary and his staff, we head to Bradenton, really try and take inventory, look at the group of guys we have right now to make sure we have everything we need. Feel really good about the group of guys we're bringing back, and also feel even better about the fact that at some point, whether to freshen an area up or upgrade something, we have roster spots, international spots, and a war chest again.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tim, then we'll go to Ben.
Hey, you didn't roast Tom for his mustache. So while we're all commenting on each other's fashion, you kind of alluded to it at the very end there, but as the team goes to Bradenton, are there specific areas that you are going to have to be looking at to see if there are still needs before the season starts? Obviously, losing your starting right back is one that everybody's kind of been pointing to as something that maybe from outside the program, they are looking for answers for. What are some of the things that you guys are going to be evaluating down there?
Look, Alistair was a super popular player also, and he's someone we wish the best of luck, not only in Montreal, but, going forward internationally also. But, for us, we actually were hoping to upgrade it right back. I think we felt this last year, whether it's, quality of crosses, whether it's more execution on that flank. I think it's something that we want to try to improve in. And, when you look at the players we return, we think that some of those guys can fill in that spot. And we also have some other candidates potentially that we're continuing to kind of explore. And, for us, a big thing heading into this season is being able to demonstrate the kind of consistency we've displayed our first 2 years. At home, we were one of 7 teams in MLS history to finish a whole season undefeated. On the road, we were 5th in MLS in road points, and had one of the lowest against average in the road in MLS history. So, saying all that to now have to go to the Western Conference, when you look at not only idea of shifting conferences, but when you think about one of the farthest southeast teams in our league having to now have to play that expansive a schedule, when it's all said and done, we would have traveled more miles this season than any team in MLS history. So, there are very few teams going to the playoffs each of their first 3 seasons. Absolutely continue to kind of aspire to be one of the very few number of teams that can join that group. To do that, I think, the continued ascension of some of our guys. You saw what players like Hani Mukhtar did, or Randall Leal did from year 1 to year 2. I think you'll see some similar growth from some other players in our team. And, again, if there are areas that we think we need to kind of freshen up, and, I have to say very candidly, I don't know there's any spot that I would say I'm worried about going into preseason. I feel kind of good with the group we have, knowing that if we do feel we have to, we're primed and ready to do so.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Mike, you took Will Meyer in the second round. I believe that's 3 goalkeepers currently. Can you update us on Brian Meredith? I know you were in talks to bring him back, and how do you see the goalkeeper core shaping out right now?
Can I comment on that? Okay, so Ben, we'll comment in coming days about Brian Meredith's status. So, in regards to, goalkeepers, what I would tell you also is, and you guys know kind of our thoughtful approach about not only using data, but also looking at odds and trends. And, you see how many center backs came off the board in this draft. Certainly it was, it was one, our expectation, our board was, that we thought we got the top center back on the draft board. But, when you also look at players who have transitioned from the amateur or college ranks in MLS, it's not uncommon to see players in the back line do that. For us also, when you see how important the goalkeeper position is, you look at players like Matt Turner, who was a relatively unknown, or Tim Melia. Look at someone like our own Joe Willis. For us, we've kind of joked about the fact that we're just going to keep drafting goalkeepers until we can find the heir apparent to Joe at some point. But, we're very happy with Elliott, and he had a great season in USL this last year on loan. They gained some important experience they needed to have, but our hope is by drafting someone else today, along with our returning players, that we've got a good core and kind of ready to go.